Hello, this is Juniper, and I am just putting a little short message in before these episodes. It has been quite a few weeks since we sprung up some dev up, and so the episodes you're about to watch are quite a few weeks old. I've been quite sick for a little while and have been a little under projects and different things, but finally I am tackling some stuff, wanting to push out these videos, so I really hope that you enjoy, and I really appreciate you coming to give time to watch them. Hopefully there's some good lessons, some good journeys, some good stories amongst what me and Dan are talking about on our dev journey up this crazy mountain. So I'm going to talk to Dan about future episodes, but I hope you really enjoy our crazy journey so far, and I'm really excited because Chilijack is coming out pretty soon. There is a bunch of awesome information from K-Dan, and I'll drop links down in the description below for Chilijack, Discord, and other things like this. And Divine Engage is under development for its web version, so if you want to come and playtest, also come join the tavern. But for now, let's jump into the episode. Hello, welcome back to Dev Up. We are back. Dan, hello. It is pretty early hours. How are we doing?
Hey, how's it going, Juni? Yeah, it's going well. Dev Up number 6. I'm very excited to be here, but first time staying up to actually record a Dev Up video. We usually record these, for me at least, I live in California, and it's about 6 a.m. PST here, Pacific time zone. Yeah, stayed up all night working on playing some Divine Engage. Actually, I was very having a lot of fun playing Divine Engage with one of my close real life friends. Actually, I was showing him the game for the first time, but yeah, it was really fun, and decided to just stay up and make it to this without falling asleep. So I'm doing great. Junie, how are you doing?
Energized. Yeah, not too bad. Had a really lovely day. Sort of went out for my wife's birthday. Sort of went around some kind of port regions of the town in New Zealand that we're at. So I sort of showed them around some of the areas, and we tried a traditional kind of New Zealand fish called a whitebait. And they're these like tiny fish that you basically get a bunch of, and you kind of like grill them up into a patty, I guess. And they're a bit sweet and quite savory, so it's really nice. And
that sounds good.
It was really funny. We were out at this market in this port town. We sort of took a coach like through this big long tunnel through a big hill to get over to this port. And there was a nice little market in the morning, and we were just kind of walking through, and all of a sudden I heard someone say, "Oh, there's whitebait at this thing," and my wife was telling me I turned around like a sleeper agent. Like I heard this word and just like perked up, because this fish it's not like available all the time. It's very kind of like in season. You have to go and catch it. And so it's kind of like, oh man, I that's so amazing. I kind of want to get this. So that was kind of a fun adventurous day. Sort of went out.
Wow.
Yeah,
that sounds lovely.
Yeah, it's quite nice. I think we'll talk a little bit more about the anti of that in terms of grinding upon projects and other things. This was like, it was great to utilize their birthday to go off and do things and in person and like detox a little bit from
Wait, was it your birthday?
It was their birthday, so I took them out.
Oh, okay,
exploring.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, happy birthday to them. I mean,
yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we went bowling and went to the markets and did all the sort of fun stuff, and I think it's nice. It's nice to just like get away from digital sometimes, you know, like even if you have these big projects going, you've got lots going on and you want to achieve goals. I think it is nice to set yourself off into different environments and let your brain like settle. I think that's always a good thing.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
That's a little more personal update. Had some fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you for the update. And yeah, that kind of leads to just kind of, I guess we could talk about what are some of the topics that we'll talk about in today's episode. We have these 3 bullet points here. We have game updates. As always, we'll just quickly go over our own progress in our own games. We'll talk a little bit about marketing talk. We're both trying to create a game that's commercially viable for us to create and sell to the people out there so that, yeah, we can continue to do what we love to do. And developer struggles. I think that's going to be a really interesting one to talk about because oftentimes on podcasts like this, we like to talk about the success and all the things going well. But what are some of the challenges and some real tough things that are actually happening? And how can we overcome those things to, yeah, see our vision come to the light? So very excited to talk about those things. But yeah, how about some updates for Divine Engage first? How about we start there?
All right. Yeah, can do. There's been a lot of things going on, so um, we'll kind of lead this into the marketing talk a little bit. But one of the big updates for DE is that we sort of mentioned in the last episode we hit the milestone of the patch 1025, and how I'm numbering my patch notes is by the month and year. So it's 10th meaning October and 25 meaning 2025. So that's why we're in patch 1025. And so this has the core set cards. It's playable on Tabletop Sim, and this was a really cool update to push live. Dan, you were here in the front lines of that, as we were testing and writing abilities and other things. And yeah, I think the amazing thing for DE that happened in the previous weeks was people started playing the game, and this was awesome to see. It was really cool to see that some of the core people that have been around in the project started picking up the game now that it's dropped and it's buildable and playable. And like you sort of mentioned, Dan, you were diving in there, building a deck, playing with some people, so that was awesome to see. So it's just been great to be able to sit back, and a little bit nerve-wracking, a little bit nerve-wracking to sit back and go, oh my gosh, I can't tweak everything, I can't change everything, but it's almost nice to just give space to let things resolve. And so the updates for DE, I think, are definitely the lurk is a huge update, and this is a really awesome keyword and ability that launched out with all of the cards and other things, and it allows your follower card that you played to have some awesome kind of continuous ability. When it goes to the discard pile, if it's the top card of the discard pile, it's lurking, and during the next engage it will be able to affect that by maybe buffing cards or doing other things. And this was sort of brainstormed up by you, Dan, because I remember tapping into Chilijack, you were sort of talking about leveraging these piles and zones to be able to have discards and the trash in Chilijack sort of activate and other things. And so you sort of brought this like loose concept over, and we sort of sat and brainstormed it and talked about it, like, oh, how should this work, what should it be, and it was such a great and cool option to build into the game just before we patched through everything else. It opened up a lot of ideas and design space, which was super cool, and I think ultimately it just seemed like a really fun mechanic. Like, everyone seems to be latching on to the idea of the mechanic, even if it might need a little bit of refinement or the teaching of it might need to be done really well. So far I've just seen it be really awesome. So this has been sort of the updates from the game so far.
Nice. Yeah, I remember trying to make the mechanic lurk work on Chilijack on a couple of cards and realizing that it just wasn't right for the game personally, because it was like we were utilizing a lot of shared resource pools like the discard pile, and I realized that whenever certain abilities could like decide the outcome of the game like that meant that other players were having to try to like track a bunch of stuff, and it just made the game feel very slow. So yeah, it didn't quite fit right for me, but I'm really glad that the mechanic works really well for you, for DE. Yeah, and I just played 2 games with it earlier. It felt really great. Yeah, of course, there's like a couple things we have to tweak here and there, but yeah, I think it's a fantastic mechanic. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing DE now. I see that you created a YouTube channel and thumbnails for videos. I think they're gonna be very, very interesting. It's gonna get a lot of new players to be able to like watch those videos and get them to learn how to play. And yeah, learning how to play a game is a very pivotal, like important thing that you gotta do for your game. And I'm trying to do that with Chilijack myself. That's like my next to-do list. I have a script written down. I try to record myself reading the script, but I might have to try another approach because I feel like it sounds a little too dry. I'm still trying to figure it out. This is very difficult, but yeah, that's awesome. I think the DE's progress has been honestly making strides. I can't wait for Lunar Festival either. It's gonna be good.
Yes, indeed. Coming up at the start of November will be the Lunar Festival. It'll be the last thing before patch 11.25, which will hopefully fix all these lots of small things. But yes, so if you are out there, listeners, wanting to play Rock Paper TCG and get into it via a fun event, then check out the Discords below, and the start of November in the first weekend or second, we will be jamming out some awesome games, so feel free to come along. But yeah, we'll be talking a little bit more about marketing and what we kind of did over the week. We gave ourselves a little bit of some direction and some homework a little bit to dive into. But before we hop into the marketing side of things, keen to hear about this week's updates on Chilijack.
Yeah, let me just quickly talk about it. This week, I've been really trying to shift my gears a little bit and put a little bit more focus on the marketing aspect of it and actually trying to get more content about Chilijack out. I know that the game is feeling pretty good since last update. There are still a couple of reworks, a new dish that I had to make, and some clarifications that I made to some of the cards. As usual, every week we do two play tests, and whenever we do a play test, then we come up with a couple of problem chilies who are really seeing a lot of play, or some of the words just don't feel like they're feeling friendly for new players. We change those up. I also had to kind of do the math and figure out what the base chilies are going to be, and the 3 expansions are going to be as well. Just figuring out the logistics of like, okay, how many cards is going to be in one set, how many dishes are going to be in one set, what are some of the components that are going to be in there, and then talking with your manufacturer to figure out the exact cost for producing each of the copy of the games, and trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the actual price of the game that I will have to sell in order to make sure that I'm not losing money by trying to make this. And then so that's all kind of on the bottom right there, but on the top over there we have some screenshots of the first one is this video that I posted today. It's a Chilijack official patch notes video. I'm going to be posting these every time basically before I do a playtest, so twice a week. I'm committing to that schedule because I really believe that I should have been making this content a while ago. Chilijack has been evolving a ton. There's constantly tons of cards just changing all the time. I could have used all those moments to like turn them into content for me to grow a following, and I think that's something that I really should have done earlier. This all kind of goes into marketing, but basically the sooner you start with these kinds of things, the better it is for your game. I'm starting to realize that now. So I believe that it's not too late, but I'm just going to try to be as consistent with this kind of content as possible. This YouTube channel is going to slowly get bigger and bigger, and I will eventually be able to ship the game. And we're doing this podcast right now so that we can document all of our progress on our way there. But I'm also hoping to have some of that journey documented onto Chilijack or Winterfox Game, my company's YouTube channel, posted on there as well. And then the last thing is Discord onboarding setup. So my Discord channel for Chilijack was kind of bare bones. There weren't really that many things you could do in there, especially when new players joined in. They were kind of just left to wander on their own and figure out what channel to go and learn how to do it. So I looked that up, like what's the best way for new players to kind of go into the Discord play and immediately find where they're supposed to go. So I set up a onboarding page for them, and hopefully that makes them a little bit easier to find where they need to go. It's just things like that I did this week, and honestly, I've been kind of dreading doing for like the longest time. You know, as I was designing Chilijack for a little bit over 2 years. I'm sure you're gonna probably like think about this too. Oftentimes you could kind of feel like rather than like making video content or marketing or focusing on, you know, how can I get this game out in front of people, I feel like the game isn't good enough to the point where I should be sharing this with people. Like I need to work on the game before it's actually shareable. Like, have you ever felt that kind of like feeling for Divine Engage at any point?
Yeah, I mean, a tremendous amount. You know, I think the feeling of like, oh, this part needs to be done, or this part needs to be this way, or other things. It's like the limiting factor when you think of, oh, it would be cool if I did X. But I think like I definitely try to push past those thoughts sometimes, and releasing earlier videos and other stuff. But even then, I think that I didn't put down this idea of, oh, this part needs to be done, or this part needs to be, especially with the art. For me, I was super like, oh, I can't release too many things because I need the art to be all compiled and there to be consistency. And so that kind of stopped me from like over marketing stuff early into the process, which I think this is like, we're gonna get more into some real like what did we struggle with and some other parts. But I think this was honestly like a big struggle during the development process, not having the actual game there, not having the cards, not getting to the point I'm at now. I'm at the point now where I'm so excited. I was so excited for these videos. It's gonna be so much fun. But oh man, it's been such a struggle to sit here and go, oh well, the AI art thing. Oh my goodness. When I first started making the game, I used a little bit of AI art. Now, my personal philosophy for listeners out there is I think the AI art thing has caused so much craziness on the internet, and we should always strive to be really fair and honest and caring of people's creativity and their efforts. And so I really hate when AI takes away from that. And so when I was using it, I was super expressive to everybody. Hey, this is a mega placeholder just to slap onto a card for now while we're testing, and then I'm going to swap that out with some other stuff. And people might have ranging opinions on this. Some people will say, oh, well, maybe you should have just drawn a crappy stick figure instead. And some people will say, okay, well, that's good, it's placeholder, and you've gone on to commission artists and support artists, so that's a good thing. You are welcome to your own opinion of that. Where I'm at now is I've fully taken the project into a commissioned artist, and they've done a fantastic job, so I'm super pumped for that. But that was like weighing on me so much when I was building the game, because I was like, oh, I want to be able to visually explain the concept to people, or I want to be able to just like test stuff or do things. And so I kind of had this constant weigh in, and that really like was tripled down when it came to marketing. It was like, oh gosh, should I make a YouTube video? But if they see the AI art, and what if someone comments, and then I have to explain to them that I'm not a bad person, I'm just trying to make a card game.
Yeah.
And so that was like a real struggle for me, being like, oh, I'm taking on this massive TCG, but I'm not ready to, like I need to spend a long time to get the artwork done, because I'm just an individual. And so yeah, I think that was definitely on my mind for the marketing.
Yeah, that's a real struggle, honestly. Most of us who are probably listening to this podcast, and most people who are game designers are solo designers who already have a full-time job and do stuff on the side, and we kind of do this as a passion project, or we have this dream where we're able to make a card game that other players really like, and they play it on the weekends or something like that, and we could just put this out there and have people enjoy it. Because yeah, ultimately I derive a lot of my joy from knowing that people are playing the game that I created and they're having a great time. And if the experience that I can provide for them can help them like bring their families closer or their friends closer, that's really the best hope I could ask for. And trying to achieve all of that by creating a game sounded honestly like a very easy thing to do at start. And sure, yeah, you can do it if you're just making one copy of a video, like a board game, and you gift it to your friends. But once you start involving the whole world as potentially like as your market, people will start looking at your art and call it something. You have to think about the legality issue. You have to think about protecting your IP in case someone steals your stuff, which tends to not happen, but you still want to be very careful. Anything related to business and money. And all of a sudden it just sort of bloats into this huge mess that you never thought you were going to be involving yourself getting tangled up in. And that's kind of like where I am right now, where I just originally started making this game for my wife as a gift. And then I showed this game to my friends and they really liked it, and they played it, and they were like, oh, this is really good, you should like get it out there. We show it to our friends or our coworkers and they love it. So then it gets me thinking like, oh, okay, well, if I have to put it out there, I have to print out X amount of copies. But realistically, any number of copies that you print, if it's not from China, you're going to be you're creating copies at a loss. You're actually not going to be making any money. In fact, you're losing money by printing these copies and giving it to these people. So you have to manufacture them at a mass scale from China. That means you need to have a certain amount of like funding to be okay with sending that much money to China to manufacture it. You got to have a business bank account. You have to have an LLC. You have to register your business with the city that you're in, and all these things. You got to start marketing. You have to advertise. You have to build up a community. Make sure that you're playtesting every week. You're talking with your members of your Discord server, or you're talking with people on TikTok or Instagram or in real life conventions. All these things just turn into a real job, and it's a job that you didn't really think you knew what you were getting into. But all this turns into actually a little bit of a burnout, may I say. Right now, I'm feeling just slightly burnt out from working on Chilijack, and I'm just being real. I've been working on Chilijack for a little bit over 2 years, so maybe a little bit under 2 years. I'm not sure. But each week, I'm making slight tweaks and on the game. And actually, whenever I kind of feel like I'm procrastinating, I just want to go look at all the cards and just adjust the numbers here and there and tell myself that I'm making good progress. But really, the best progress I could be making is sometimes actually just taking a step back, like you said, and just going out there and taking my mind off of working on Chilijack, because it is my first game that I'll ever be releasing to the public, and it doesn't have to be a perfect game. And that's something that we need to kind of understand as designers, is that maybe we're putting too much pressure on ourselves, or maybe we're putting too much pressure on our shoulders to have to release a game that's perfectly balanced and that everyone's going to be playing it for years to come. And if anything is broken, they're just gonna stop playing the game. That may not really be the case, you know. So I guess what I'm saying here is it's okay to see how overwhelming this whole process is, right? For creating a TCG, creating any living card game, or even just a single release board game, balancing, I mean, even just starting from concepting to playtesting, designing, balancing the game, manufacturing it, advertising it, all of these are really, really difficult things to do, especially for one person. So yeah, it is not easy. No one said that it was going to be easy, and most of the time people do it out of pure passion. So that is basically the designer's struggle, and I'm in the middle of it. I don't know how you feel about that, Judy. I know I just kind of rambled for a good chunk of time, but how do you feel about the things that I just talked about? Do you feel the same way, or are you running into different issues?
Oh man, no worries on the ramble. I think we're definitely gonna get into that territory in this episode. So if you're out there, come join us in the comments as well. Come tell us about your own developer struggles, some thoughts that you've had. Feel free to vent to us as well. We're all in this journey climbing up the mountain together. But I think that these things are pretty typical when you're facing big mountainous projects. I think that I'm definitely heading into this bucket as well. There's been some fantastic progress, and like I said, I'm sort of heading into these thresholds which just feel wonderful. But at the same time, when I sit here and I look at those surmounting things, it's all of the surrounding stuff that you didn't put into your brain when you first started. And it is the idea of getting it over the line to the degree of your expectation. And I think this is the interesting thing, right? Is you are your jailer, right? No one is actually asking you to release a polished game or a game that nets positive or anything like this. Actually, we're asking it of ourselves. I could release Divine Engage as is, as like a print and play PDF. I could throw it on the internet and say, here's the current rule sheet, here are the cards, you can download it, and it's done. And I have done this for a couple projects before, when I reached that point of, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just going to throw it out there at people and say, you know what, I did do this thing. But I think it's really good to have some self-talk with yourself in a healthy way around what's your expectation, what's your want, and are you ready to drive for that want? Truly, are you actually ready? Because I think that when you look at things like marketing and you look at all these surrounding things for the game that are needed to reach that threshold that you might put on yourself, you have to really start the climb. I think it's kind of like if you're going to a mountain and there's a little walk up the hill that's like easy mode, and that might be like a little game jam. You just kind of make the game and do it in a game jam, and that's chill. That's really nice. And maybe medium size hill is expanding upon that into a bit of a game, or you do a smaller project. All right, that's great. When you do these bigger projects, I think it might come as a shock if you're not really consciously thinking about the fact that there is going to be marketing, there is going to be business setups, there is going to be like refinements and designs and all these things to consider. But I think if you're ready for the climb, if you're ready to do it, if that's what you want to do, then I think everyone has capabilities and you can practice, learn, and grow, and you can achieve the things. Human beings are incredible. And so I think it's really about being honest with yourself and saying, yeah, I can do that actually, if I put in the effort, if I keep reminding myself to keep climbing. up this steep hill, and hey, this hill's going to be really steep. And I think trying to give yourself some reassurance that it's difficult is a good thing. And just pushing past the difficulty and say, well, you know what, I'm that's what I'm doing. I'm facing something that's at my upper limits, but overcoming that challenge means so much growth. And so are you willing to get to the peak of such difficulty just to achieve growth? And I think a really interesting story about burnout and this growth and climbing peaks of mountains. There's a game called Celeste that has a beautiful story woven into the gameplay of that.
Yes.
So if you haven't played Celeste and you this sort of thing really touches at you, I definitely recommend having a little therapy game session with Celeste, and you'll hit some good moments. But that's how I'm definitely feeling. Is I feel like for Divine Engage, I've really had to put my foot in the ground and say, you know what, this is the project that I'm gonna kind of grit my teeth at. I'm going to face that really steep climb, and it's hard. It's been really difficult, and I'm facing all of these things that I need to keep pushing on. But oh man, is it gonna be fantastic when I reach the top?
Right.
I think
that feeling is going to be unmatched.
Oh, unmatched, 100%. I think that the ability to put out this really, really big thing, and I think there's a bit of sensationalism with big projects and single developers and other stuff, and I don't think there's enough talk about these things really. So I'm actually really glad that we're talking about it today. And if you're out there, a single developer yourself, if you're working with a team, if you're kind of in this moment of, I'm just getting into games, or I've got this big idea of a card game or another game, I think it's all possible, but it's really about, are you ready for that climb? And I think, unfortunately, it's really hard to know all of the prerequisites without kind of just trying to get started. You might scrape your elbows and knees a little bit and fall back down, and I feel like that's been my struggle with getting to the point where I'm ready to do a Divine Engage, is kind of just tackling that really steep incline when I don't have the skills, and just kind of scraping my arms and elbows and going, oh gosh, I can't climb this thing. But experience is good. If you're able to view and experience all the context beforehand, then I think it's great. So yeah, I think that's,
you know what, I think you made a really good point. And to some degree, if there are designers out there who just heard all the things that we mentioned and you're feeling daunted by just how many things that you don't know what to do, when I started, I actually thought about, I didn't know about any of this stuff either, and to some degree I actually am glad that I didn't know about those things, because had I known how much work it takes to actually make the game, to produce the game, to market it, like what that would mean truly, maybe there was a world where I said, you know what, this is fun, but I'm not gonna take it too seriously because it's too much. But living through the mistakes, living through the toughness and the hard times, that's what kind of helped me get better as a designer, and that's what helped me get better as a community manager, I guess you could say. You know, all kinds of like these different hats that I get to put on when I'm working on this game and trying to ship it. Yeah, so to some degree, I actually prefer going in and learning, you know, just like firsthand, and not just letting other people's experiences or their fears about certain things decide like how I'm gonna approach a project next time, or how I'm gonna be solving a problem. Yeah, and when you don't know much about the dangers and the fears of failure, sometimes dreams can seem foolish, but I feel like they're only dreams until you actually make it real. And once it does become real, I mean, any successful person out there with a really, really cool product or like your favorite tabletop game, they had to go through the same things. And at some point, their game idea was just an idea. And they had to put it down onto paper, get it on like an index card, play it with their friends, show it to their wives or their sons or daughters, and play the game and ask them for feedback. And then repeat that for a year or 2 years or maybe even 3. They had to do that over and over again until they finally said, you know what, this is good enough for me. I'm going to stop right here and publish the game. So, yeah, I really think that you got to experience everything yourself and learn the harsh lessons along the way. And even when it is pretty harsh, like, I really liked what you said earlier, Juniper, like, yeah, you got to put in the hard work and you got to just keep doing it. And when we do reach the top, like, it's going to feel so good.
Do you feel like the struggle is almost positive in a way?
Yes. I think I wish that we would give ourselves a little bit more time to be more lenient to ourselves and to have more breaks. It's okay to stay up like this once in a while when we really have some creative juice flowing. But we also have our families to take care of and to spend time with. And I feel like I'm actually guilty of this. When I first was like about like crossing 1 year anniversary of working on Chilijack, I was very, very excited about Chilijack, and anytime whenever a new mechanic would work, I would just be thinking about Chilijack all day and putting none of my actual priorities in place. And I would just be like, oh, I'm just thinking about chilies. So much so that my wife would be like, hey, what do you want for dinner? And all I'm thinking about is chilies for like 30 days in a row. And so eventually we had to have that talk and be like, okay, let me prioritize a little bit better. So yeah, it just took a lot of time to like manage my time and also like the level of passion and priorities, I guess, that I set for myself. Yeah, it's really hard to work on a project for that long or like an extended amount of time without feeling either burnt out from it or not going crazy working on it because you're so obsessed with that idea and trying to make that thing work that you kind of neglect everything else in your life. Yeah, honestly, it's been a very rocky climb up this mountain for me personally because there was no roadmap for me to follow. It was just, let me make more chilies because it feels fun. I don't know when the game's gonna finish. I just know that I have to keep climbing up, you know? Like, the only way is up the mountain. And yeah, and I actually feel like now I'm at this point where I could see the top, but it is very daunting. I see a lot of spikes on the way there. So yeah, it will be very challenging to climb the last bit of the mountain, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that like this I hope for people listening and tuning in, you can take, you know, this journey tale, this story of two climbers going up, trying to make games, and maybe pull a little bit of some lessons in from that. Because I definitely think if I could impart some sort of wisdom or help or guidance for climbers going up in this similar pathway, time management and priorities for external things is so fascinating because you just think like, how could this possibly help me, right? Like you're telling me to not focus on the project. You're telling me to, you know, like get a good night's rest when I could leverage staying up an extra hour or two to work on it. But I think that the problem set is, again, these projects are longer term. And with a longer term climb, I mean, I feel like when you do running races and you have a longer running race, that's not a sprint. People say, hey, don't rush at the start. You need to take your time because this is a longer race and you need that energy right at the end. And I think that's really apparent because the first 2 years of building these games, at least for me, has been great. Lots of things have happened and changed, but I'm at this point now where now's the time to kick into third gear and go super ham and have a lot of momentum and energy and put out marketing and do a lot of stuff. And so unfortunately, I wasn't able to tell my younger self, hey, you need to really set yourself up, because in 1.5 years, 2 years time, you're going to be here wanting to market the game, wanting to finish the game, and you need energy and time management, and you need things set up in your life to allow you to have the surface area to do this. So if you're not, managing, maybe you have a job you need to stabilize, but if you're thinking about your game all day, or you're working on it super late, maybe it's going to be harder to do that job, and so you're having to do catch-up work on the job. This has definitely been my struggle. Is there's basically that thing of my work requires a lot of thought, because I'm also building quite a big project with work, and so my work isn't just typical work. So having this card game at all is kind of crazy town. And so because I already kind of donate a lot of my time and focus to my main sort of project, building up the Egg Academy and doing that, it leaves a little bit of surface area to play around with, but I'm kind of burning that really fast. And so that just ends up sort of going, okay, great, I'm staying up to 4 a.m. to get things done, because this is all I can do, when it's sort of like, oh man, if I can go back and say, yo, don't stay up late, because, you're gonna feel super bad, and getting everything over the deadlines is gonna just start to just eat away at you a little bit. And even though I was able to get it all done, I'm able to balance. I think that, it's a really interesting concept of your time is so valuable. And I've talked to game publishers, and it's a really fascinating thing that they've disclosed to me around funding stuff. I sort of went to game publishers and said, hey, what's your method? What do you look at? And something I was told when doing one of these applications was, write down your hours working on the game. Calculate out how much you're spending hiring yourself to work on the game. And I'm like, wait, what? I don't pay myself to work on the game. But exactly, right? You're spending all of these hours. So if you were hiring a developer or an artist or someone, you would pay them for their time and they would work on it. So you need to also think about, how much time am I spending on the project? What is the return on investment here? And how can I best balance this? Maybe it's by going through and doing a bunch of hours and saying, great, I'm going to somehow get money for my time. So I'm going to fund the project and do it that way. And so now you're like, okay, great. I'm kind of doing 2 jobs, but it's great because I'm getting some return. Or it could be, I can't fund my time. I can't pay myself for this extra time. So let's not go crazy here, but it will still be good to do it, right? I think of volunteer work. I don't think volunteer people at animal shelters and stuff are there for 20 hours going crazy without having some kind of return. They'll be doing, maybe they sacrifice an entire day of their weekend, and that's a lovely thing, but they're not going to maybe do more than that, because that's their capacity for some support work like this. So when I think about that, I just go, oh man, I'm over here dying, I'm pouring in time I don't have, and I'm not supporting that time, or I'm not actually thinking about how much time have I put in, what's my return on this. So I think if you're not going to get a positive return of your time, if it's a passion thing, then I think you should take care of yourself. Right?
Yeah.
Like, how can I sustain the development of this? Because you don't want to be suffering from passions, because then you start to harbor all the negative stuff. And I think this is like common sense. I think that I don't feel like I would have this conversation with anyone and they would like disagree, or I think most people would kind of go along this topic, but I just feel like it doesn't get talked about enough, or it doesn't get brought to the surface. I feel like everyone will understand it very clearly, but I feel like that's my key problem, is I don't raise the alarm bells enough in my brain, and I go, hey, this is actually really important.
Yeah, I think for us, when we're doing the same thing over and over again, it's oftentimes hard to see the negative patterns or like red flags that come up, and it's really hard to kind of like, try to fix it. Even sometimes that's the only thing that works. I definitely see myself falling into this like negative slope, so I'm glad that we can at least be there to catch each other when we're slipping, so that we can stay, not only are we going to make really good games, we're going to stay healthy, and we're going to stay healthy and have fun doing it. I think that's the ultimate goal, is that while we're working on these games, we're not going to lose our passions for it. We're not going to lose sleep. We're not going to lose our loved ones, or time spent with people that are important in our lives doing this. And that could mean that the game comes out a little bit later, and that's okay. And at the end of the day, I know that I started making this game for my wife and for my friends. So if I'm losing the sight, like the initial goal, why I started to even make this game for, like, who did I start making this for? That would be, even if I shipped a successful game, that would still, to me, seem like a failure. So I think it's really important for us to kind of catch ourselves doing that, and just be there for each other. And I'm really glad that we got to kind of cover this topic briefly on this episode. I know in the next future episode we'll always have more burnout stories or failures or things not working out, or I know we said we were going to talk about marketing today. We didn't go too in depth into marketing, but eventually marketing's going to burn us out too. So that's going to be fun. Maybe we could also tell the listeners about the little homework assignment that we've been kind of like staying accountable to, right?
I think it's a good lead in. I like what you're talking about how we can help each other, which is really awesome. And I think we've got a bit of space for that can kind of lead into the marketing side. So I think it's really great, and it's been awesome having you here, Dan, like to ping off, and sort of there's a lot of space to boil in ideas, and so it does take away that kind of surmounting pressure, I think, which is awesome. So if anyone's out there and you're like, I want to do something myself, don't be afraid to just have conversations with friends about things, because or try and meet people in the space. You can do things yourself.
If you're a solo designer kind of like us, and you need another person to kind of like just talk to about your problems and stuff, please comment down below. We will seriously read all these comments and respond to you. We'll reply. We've been there, and it's pretty daunting to try to make a card game by yourself or a board game by yourself. Let us know what kind of problems you're facing right now, but just know that we're all kind of walking the same path together.
And I sort of I really liked when we finished recording last week's episode. It was this nice impression of, I said, Dan, we should have homework.
Yes.
Let's push each other forward. And so this was a really fun exercise to give each other a bit of like oomph of like, yo, let's set out with a bit of intention going into the week. And I really like your expression on what is the why of the project. And I think leading into that and reflecting that is always a really, really great thing. For me with DE is my big why for the project is I'm wanting to make a card game that is playable. I can play it on the bus. When I'm going around the place, I can play it really quickly with friends, and I can get people into card games accessibly, because the genre TCGs right now, I see a lot of YouTube videos of like $10,000 Magic the Gathering deck, yada yada, and I'm like, man, I can't tell people how cool like comboing with commanders is, because they're going to be like, oh, how much is your cards? You know, like we're not going to be able to get to the gameplay. So my big why is I want to make a game that is at the quality level of these TCGs that people would be willing to pick up, and it's also accessible. So this is my big push, and I think this kind of goes into our homework a little bit, which was marketing. Can you make a marketing post for your game? Now, Dan, I kind of did like half the homework. And I guess this is definitely the struggle, which is time management. I was finding my time to be a little bit squeezed in this week, and I think I think that is like a big struggle right now. I'm kind of struggling with, oh man, I'd love to be able to spawn in 30 extra hours in the week and just pump out these videos, but I was like, oh no, I can't get this video out. Oh my gosh, I've got so many like life events and work things going on, and it's that thing of the setup. But I was super amped about this idea of the marketing, so I started leaning into what my marketing will be. So I'm super excited to tell you about it. So I set up a YouTube channel, a brand new one for the game, because I want all the content to be really fresh and reflect well. So this is the channel. It'll be linked down below. So if you guys want to see really specific DE content, I'll be launching these out really soon. And hopefully by next episode, we can sort of talk about how that all went. So at
that'd be cool.
TCG, go on and drop a sub. And so I came up with a little logo, which is the amber icon for the game. I thought the blue and orange were kind of popping and a little bit nice and vibrant. If you see the icon, it sort of pops out at you. I took some of the characters from the game and kind of stickerified them for the banner, and got the tagline, a TCG for everyone, because that's my grand goal. So when people jump into Divine Engage, it's really nice. And my first video that I'm excited to drop is a bit of story time style. This is kind of what I'm thinking. We'll walk you guys through the concept. So the concept is 8-year-old Juniper finding Club Penguin and kind of going, oh my gosh, Club Penguin, yo, this is cool. And finding the dojo where they had card jitsu, this kind of rock paper scissors card game, simple mini game, and playing so much of it, and then walking to a little convenience store and finding like this magazine that had the physical cards like on the magazine, and I was like, oh my god, I have the physical cards. And this was just like a joyous moment, and so this is the core memory of that game, and which is exactly why I went back to it when I was concepting what my game was going to be. And so this led me into the journey of coming to the game. So this is going to be my first idea for the video, little pre-context of where the game came from, leading into why I'm building it, and just kind of getting people into the vibe and hopefully tapping into that crowd of people. If anyone else is out there that's listening to this podcast that's played card jitsu, yo, drop some comments. What belt did you reach? Did you get black belt? In Club Penguin, they had like a karate kind of belt system. So as you played these card games, you'd get different colored belts. So it was a grind to get your black belt. It was awesome. So that's going to be my first video, is a bit of pre-context for the game. And then my next one is a learn to play resource, which I'm hoping to put out very soon as well. which is aiming to be
Man.
5 minutes. And can you learn the entire game in 5 minutes?
That's a sweet amount of time. I feel like if I saw a video that goes on for 5 minutes or less, I think I would definitely click on it and in good faith and hoping that I'll be able to learn everything about the game that you need to know to play there. And if they run into any specific combos and stuff, that's when they can kind of figure it out by reading the cards themselves. Yeah, but I definitely agree with your choice of videos that you are planning on making for your marketing campaign. It's like an introduction and a how to play. I think are fantastic. I'm actually trying to do something very similar right now for my channel as well. But I really didn't want to wait for the patch notes content to be, because I already had like started these patches, so I'm rather starting now than waiting until those introduction and how to play videos are up. But I really need to prioritize them. Yeah, it's honestly kind of like trying to prioritize marketing. For me, there's another way to go about it, because I can technically print out a prototype pretty soon if I have the right components. But in order to print the components, I need to test a lot. But basically, once I have a prototype in front of me, I can send it to people. I can get their reviews, so I can give them like review copies. I could also just film myself playing the game in real life with my friends. So that's also another thing that I might be doing very soon, playing Chilijack in real life, and the loser has to eat like a really spicy chili or something like that, you know. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this like marketing be something that we do more constantly and regularly, and try to help each other stay accountable for, because it's very out of my ballpark and I'm very uncomfortable doing it. I'll just say that. If we hadn't given ourselves the homework last week, I don't know if I would have actually even made the effort to upload a patch notes video today. So yeah, I think this is going well. I hope that we can continue doing this.
I thought the patch notes video was awesome. I was on the bus home from my little port town trip, and we were going through the big tunnel through the hill, and so I just needed some downtime because it was quite a long bus ride. And so I saw, oh my gosh, Dan posted up this video. Yo, I turned to my wife and I was like, Dan's done his homework. I haven't done my homework yet. And she was like, oh, you better do your homework. And I was like, yep.
Yeah.
So it was great to see, and I watched it through, and it was really awesome. And so I definitely recommend people jump down into descriptions and go check out the awesome patch notes for Chilijack if you want to see the whole video. One of the highlights was definitely Chili Junior was cool, seeing some of the awesome. I like the Chili Junior update and rework. It was awesome to see. And what really caught my attention from the patch notes was the ice cream dish. And this was a really awesome update that I saw, adding in this new icon that showed you the amount of cards that you're going to draw in that setup phase. I think it's really nice that you've added this in, because it feels like it's really referenceable. You also get a tiny bit of design space in that, and it'll just help you understand and learn the game better.
Yes.
So that just, rather than like an arbitrary rule of, oh, you draw 4, it's like, oh, you draw whatever the dish shows you, and it's like, oh, that's nice. And then the ice cream was really engaging, because it's suddenly this like -1 heat dish, which is kind of crazy. So I thought this was like great to have in the content, because it just really pulled me in as like, what am I watching? what is going on?
Right.
And so I was like, how do you make ice cream with chilies? I feel like this will be a really like talked about like concept. So I really enjoyed checking that out on the bus. That was awesome.
Yeah. Oftentimes you really just can't make ice cream with chilies. That's why chilies, like chili milk, actually kind of feels thematic there. If you have the chili milk, that's the goat of the 99 dish for that dish. Is like, if you have the milk, then you're set. And honestly, I'm very happy with the design. I thought it was just gonna be like it might feel cheap for a lot of players if I just slap a -1 and then ship it as a new dish. But when we actually play tested the dish, it just felt so fun. Like it was flipping the game on its head. Everyone is all of a sudden thinking about the implications of having these like really powerful large chilies as negative things. How can I give it to my opponent? How can I try to get rid of things on my plate? Yeah, it just made the game really more fun. And something that I'm thinking about doing right now is having actually 5 dishes only in the base set and 60 chilies. Originally, I was thinking 55 chilies and 10 dishes, but I'm actually lowering the number of dishes that comes with the base set down to 5, because the game is usually supposed to be best of 5. So if you play all 5 dishes, you will have gone through the full experience, and the first time user experience is going to be very streamlined, I feel. No one's going to be running into a very complicated dish from the first set get-go. So yeah, lowering the numbers there, and then giving each expansions 2 new dishes would actually bring the numbers up to 11, which is exactly how many dishes we have in the game with an ice cream. Now feeling really good at 11 there. So I just feel like all these numbers are starting to line up, and I'm very happy. And yeah, I guess the next step is I need to actually draw the art for the ice cream. I already kind of have an idea of what it might look like, but yeah, it's gonna be good. And yeah, and then I have to kind of figure out right now what I need to do is figure out the chilies that are going to be in each set. So thematic wise, there's this like idea of that I'm kind of leaning towards. Like one is a casino, like Royale, very random, very chaotic, kind of all the chilies that are fitting into that gambling aspect of it, of Chilijack. They're going to fit in there. Another theme is going to be combo heavy. Lots of like cutesy cooking theme. That's gonna be where all the flavored chilies and cooking themed chilies are gonna be in. And the final one is this like really quick, disruptive, sabotaging battle style like chilies that are fighting with each other. That's gonna be another set. So that's 3 sets right there. Each set's gonna have 30 chilies and 2 dishes. I need to make sure that they all mechanically work with each other. Once I have the sets like actually set down, I need to contact Zillaris and tell him 2 iconic chilies from each expansion so that I could commission him for another box art for the tuck boxes. So once that's done, and then I have the components, I could send out an order for the prototype. So it's just like I have so many things I need to do to get to that step, and I sometimes feel like marketing can kind of hold off, right? But no, I have to do the marketing on the side as well. When I'm done with the product, I actually need an audience to sell the product to. If I just have 2,000 copies of like Chilijack sitting in my garage and only like 5 people buy it, what am I gonna do after that, right? So yeah, I gotta start to marketing. That's the only option. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good assessment. I really like the concept there of like a full experience, and I think that's quite natural and bakes in really well, which is the idea of, and it could be really cool, like a 3-course meal. So you play with like 3 dishes, and once you've played with 3, like you're finished the game.
Yeah.
So it's just best of 3. Or you could do the best of
cool.
5,
I like
which
that.
is like the 5-course meal, and you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is the full experience. But I like that thing of that's the full experience. You're basically playing until you've played every dish in front of you.
Right.
I like the idea of completeness. It feels like there's a direction, and then you can choose within that direction of how dense you want your experience to be, how full. Do you play the entire, we're gonna play every single dish, oh my god, or is it like, oh, we're just gonna play like 1? It's like, that's cool. So yeah, I really like that tie-in. I think that's really nice, and definitely,
Thank you.
I'm definitely with you there on like the marketing side. I'm excited for these videos, and they're needing to go out amongst a lot of things, and I think thankfully I was able to set myself into a good bucket with this kind of like patch. I had this concept in my head, and it was a little bit of grind, and took quite a little bit, but reaching it I thought was quite good, which was I'm going to get to a patch of the game where I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to obviously take notes, and I am going to change stuff later, but I'm going to just hold off on changing and updating the game, and I'm going to wait until post-tournament, and it's going to have like 1 month of time to bake in, and I'm just going to accept all the like terrible parts. But this was a great decision, and I think that it really, I think, is a reflection of my struggles, not of a positive thing. I'm not saying this from a place of I'm so clever I came up with this cool thing. I'm saying, man, I'm a struggling individual developer who doesn't have the time and resources and is getting burnt out and was needing to come up with something to sustain and to fix things. And so this concept came from struggle. It came from not being able to sustain the project and be able to work on marketing, be able to do other things. And so I'm like, man, I need to give myself space.
Yes.
But I feel like people get to that point really often, but they're not able to get progressive steps, because it goes, okay, well, I'm gonna take a week off. I'm just gonna take a break. And that's terrible, because you're sacrificing your passion and progress because you need space. And I think if you can just take a little breather and come up with other concepts that allow you to progress while getting space, I think that's really good. So I feel really positive about the project. I'm getting space, but I don't feel like I'm detracting, which I think this is I'm really happy to be in that spot.
Yeah, it's a great call. Looking forward to the progress on both of our games. I think we're going in a really, really positive place.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, I think what you've shown here, Dan, has been really insightful and interesting to see. And I hope for listeners out there, if you are audio listening, come tune into the visuals, because there's been some really awesome, interesting visuals this episode, and you might want to go back on and check into with these graphs and sort of notating down a lot of different things and being able to look at the pricing models and where the chilies are sitting and how you are getting to those sort of numbers. This was a really interesting sort of part as well. So that's been really awesome to hear on Chilijack. I think there's going to be a lot of updates coming very soon. We're going to have game tournaments, we're going to have more playtesting and marketing content rolling out. So as we take across the internet with some card games, come join us for the adventure. Can tune in to some games, can play down in the Discords below, or just feel free to tune into the next episode as we talk about more development specifics. We're going to go into a lot of crafts, into design and other things. I'm really excited, but thanks for jumping in for another week of DevUp. We are progressing, but it was nice to honestly just talk about some of those things that I assume most people have thoughts on. So it was great to just kind of ruminate around these ideas, and as we're sort of strapping ourselves in for more updates. I'm excited, Dan. So yeah,
I'm excited too.
Awesome. We will see you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks for listening to DevUp. See you guys next time. Take care.
Bye. Alrighty, hello, welcome back everybody to another week, another climb, another day for making cards, having fun. We are back, DevUp episode 7. My name's Juniper, and with me as always is Dan. Yo, what's up? How's it going?
Yo, how is it going? It's going really well. Very excited for episode 7. We have a ton of new updates to talk about, and also like a really cool topic that we want to dive into. I'm super excited for this one. Yeah.
I'm excited. We are going to be talking about some game updates today, and we're going to be going over game rules and card game phases. So if you are working on a card game, if you're kind of interested, sit back and relax as we go through some hopefully not too overcomplicated rule sets. I guess that's part of the talk. We'll talk about how do you balance out if rules can be too complex, or how did we go about that. So I'm excited to share that. But first off, there is a bunch of awesome game updates, and I'd love to pull us over and kick into it. So yesterday was pretty eventful. So within the tavern, we had a lot of games and fun sparking up. There was a bunch of stuff that was happening, and I was jamming out some games with peeps in there. The time was ticking up. I was like, oh my gosh, it's 10 p.m. already. And I was ready for my big playtest of Divine Engage that I had with a bunch of people. Sorry that it was a terrible time zone for you, Dan. It was a horrible time. I'm glad that, especially after our last talk about, how do we feel good as developers? How do we set ourselves up into a good spot? You were taking that advice on, setting yourself up with a better sleep schedule. I was like, that's good. I think that's
absolutely.
It's a good thing. But thankfully, there were some people who had some time. They jumped on in, and we had a bunch of games going on at once for DE. And so this is a little screenshot here. We have sort of the board set up. People were playing within Tabletop Simulator, and we had a few games going on, which was really fun. People made a very range of decks. It was really interesting to see people's kind of choices and reasonings, and the discussions between which card was really cool and why. Some people loved the RNG kind of, I'm gonna gamble all my resources, and some people liked the more methodical, like I'm gonna sort of play to these pieces. It was really cool to see everyone's different takes and the amount of range that deck building had. That was really nice to see in the game. And we had some really fun moments. There was a crazy moment where in Divine Engage, you can transcend with your big divine character. And this happened turn 2. I was shocked. I didn't expect the power scaling to be kind of like that, but thankfully there are some really crafty people who can deck build well, and there was one card in the set that allows you to roll your rune dice, which is kind of insane in retrospect, because you can go from only having 1 rune to 6, all in the matter of 1 turn. And that's kind of what happened. They rolled the dice, they rolled a 6, they generated some more runes, and all of a sudden they were just this massive powerhouse by turn 2. It was kind of nuts seeing that play out. There were some really crazy moments. People were clutching games on 1 HP. It was pretty awesome. People were popping off. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. That sort of culminated that patch of the game. People got their hands on it. It was really fun to see. Yeah.
That's amazing. And you even said somebody actually transcended, and for the rest of the game they were able to do double damage, but they actually didn't just win off of that, right? So you can still get crazy effects like that to trigger, but it's still cool to see that it doesn't just completely break the game. You still have to win the rock paper scissors and read your opponent's minds, and the opponent was probably setting up their combos and stuff too. So yeah, all in all, that sounds really hype. I love it. And when you can tell those like stories from the games that you play, that's when a game truly feels like special. And then you can look back at it and like tell your friends, oh, on turn 2 I transcended and did all this cool stuff. Maybe that's like what we should be striving for, more of those kinds of like cool interactions.
I do think it was kind of this interesting space for the game to be in, because I sort of I tried to make all the card designs feel really good, and I sort of went at that, and what I found was everyone was feeling really overpowered and really strong, and I think that's one way of getting to those stories, is when you can get to these moments of just being really OP, and even into Venna, being able to just like not reset your runes, and everyone was like, oh, I just feel so strong, like I can scam the rune costs. You kind of make your players feel clever almost. They sort of go, oh, I've cheated your silly rune cost, I'm so strong. And they get to feel in control and powerful, and that feels pretty cool. So it was great to kind of see, and I think it was really awesome. And why I feel so confident is because some players disagreed. They were like, oh, I don't know, Venom makes me feel this way. And so it was really cool to see that there was so much range of different players, play styles, deck building. Even with the small set, there was actually quite a lot of range that got out there, which was really cool. There's a couple cards that were maybe needing a little bit of balancing, but that's okay. So yeah, I was super happy with that, and I sort of affirmed a bit of project direction, talking to one of the playtesters afterwards, and just talking through like what my view is for the project. And so I kind of wanted to share here as well. So for Divine Engage, where we're currently at is we're in patch 1025, meaning October 2025, and we've just been doing some rounds of playtesting. The next step for the game is going into the tournament. This is going to be happening at the start of November, and it's going to be played on Tabletop Sim, and it's going to be a big one-day event. I'm just going to try and wrangle in a bunch of people to have a huge amount of fun. And so we're going to be playing on the current patch in the tournament. And then mid-November, I'm going to be patching the game with all of these fixes, because there's quite a few different little small tweaks and fixes that I need to make just to make the game really rounded, feel good. So that's going to be coming out mid-November. And into November, December time, I'm really keen to pick up the game's content, starting from this week. I sort of mentioned last time that I was diving into some videos, and so I'm going to be releasing out these videos progressively for the project. It takes a bit of time, but I'm really keen to start ramping up the content around the game, because I think that when I am tackling this project right now, I'm thinking about what I want to do next, crowdfunding, all these other stuff, doing the next set, releasing the game. And I think that a thing that I'm kind of missing right now is the core audience for the game. And I feel like there's a really good core design, and I've reached this great point where I've got all the art assets, I've got all these things for the game. And so now I feel like what's sensible is I need the project to actually reach people. And so that's going to be my next sort of focus and step, is the game will be patched and balanced. And then it'll just be about making a lot of content surrounding the game, since we're at this nice stable point. And so that's going to lead me through to the rest of the year, getting the game out there. And I'll be diving into a digital demo, because I think that a way to get the game out there is to make it more accessible. And right now, it being stuck on Tabletop is not really helping. And so I'm really keen to I'm thinking to release a free digital version of the game, so anyone can actually come in and get the game, because my core theme when building DE has always been accessibility, and I want card games to be accessible. And the reason why I'm confident in making this free is because I want the physical version to cost money, basically. And so I'm just thinking, can I get, for my first proper full commercial game, can I get this out to a bunch of people? Can I resonate with people? Can I do that first? Because I think that's more important to me than can I make $1,000, $10,000 back on my investment or whatever. I think it's more important to know internally as a designer that I actually have that in my wheelhouse. I can make something that can resonate with a crowd, and I think that's really important. And so my hopes are that will translate into more progress on the projects, maybe crowdfunding, if I can get an audience going. So these have been my thoughts lately with the project, and that's sort of my updates there.
Nice. Well, thank you for the updates. It's really nice to see your upcoming deadlines and the goals that you have, especially for I'm very interested in kind of following along your crowdfunding journey. I think I chose not to go for crowdfunding for Chilijack, but that's for like another personal reason. And but I think it's definitely sensible to. I could see DE on Kickstarter or other crowdfunding websites, and people looking at the game, the arts, and genuinely being interested in seeing this. And it's gonna especially help their cases. It's a very rare thing for like a physical card game to already be available digitally, so they could just try out the game and then see if they would like want to actually buy the game personally, right? I think that's really cool. It's a really great strategy.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping it will translate well, hit into some people. The reason I'm thinking about crowdfunding is because I've personally funded the game so far with this first set, 54 cards, but I'm wanting to release the game with another set of 54 cards as well. So, but to do that, I think I need some help. And maybe also for a bit of the digital development. So that's kind of where I'm looking is, that's why I'm trying to go straight into content and find the audience and basically say, hey, here's the game. Do you like it? Is it super cool and pog and awesome? That help me make it more. That would be great. So yeah, it's got me going on that. But I think in the meantime with developing DE, I have been having a lot of fun with my wife playing Chilijack. We had a little playtest for ourselves. And I had this really awesome time with your game, Dan, because I lost terribly, by the way. I got demolished.
Oh, no.
But I had so much fun because even though my partner doesn't really like competitive games with me too much, more cooperative, this one was more fun. And even though it was a little competitive, I think we really got into the vibes. And so I'm super keen as a player of Chilijack, as someone who's been alongside the development, I'm so excited to hear about all these amazing updates for the game. It sounds like your week has been busy. What's going on?
Yeah, it's been super busy, man. And yeah, I'll kick it off with Chilijack updates right here. I'm getting really, really close to the deadline that I set for myself. Down here, I actually wrote down November 22nd is the prototype deadline. So I've been in contact with the manufacturer, and I'll be sending them all the files necessary to print out an actual prototype. So I'm going to be receiving the base game and the 3 expansions that come along with the base game. And you might be thinking, expansions already? The game's not even out yet. Like, how are you going to have an expansion out for a game that soon? It's because I've already made all these cards, 150 almost of chilies, and I've been kind of allocating them into different boxes based on how I think it's going to be easy for players to pick up the game and learn. Originally, I started designing Chilijack with 120 chilies in mind, and when I play tested with every player, a lot of players really liked the game but had a huge time, hard time learning the game for the first time because there were so many cards. And as a developer or designer, it was really hard to streamline that first time experience of only showing them the easy chilies to play with and such, so that I actually realized I could just cut down the number of chilies in my game into half, and having that as the base game, and then the other half as 3 separate expansions that have kind of underlying themes and core mechanics that are unique to each set. So if players wanted to get more of the game, they can basically buy chunks of the game at a very low price, and it would just be added onto their collection. So that's kind of a preamble into what I'm about to talk about here, the expansion arts. I have these new expansion arts that are coming up in progress. One of them is a little bit more polished than the others. Other 2 are very simple concepts right now. With our favorite artist in town, Zillaris. Shout out to Zillaris for his absolute incredible energy and inspiration, and just the huge amount of support that his art brings to our motivation sometimes in our creations. It's awesome. We got the 3 expansions here. We have Battle Blitz, we have Kitchen Chaos, and Luck and Loaded. As you might notice, they have obviously our favorite iconic chilies in the front here. So you have the Cowboy and the Ninja and Battle Blitz. This one is meant to be very spicy, has a lot of disruptions, and
surprise chilies are all gonna be in this set. So if you like randomly just pulling out cards from your hand and saying, I have cheeses, or I have a ninja, you're gonna have to swap the chili on your plate or something like that, this is a set you want to buy. But some players, I understand that they're not really into disruptions. Some people might actually want to do more like funny RNG stuff, and that's where Luck and Loaded is for. Luck and Loaded is all about RNG elements, rolling the dice and seeing what comes out. Sometimes you can't even know what's gonna happen, but it's that's where the fun is. So Luck and Loaded is for those RNG enjoyers. And then we have the Kitchen Chaos one. This is the one that I felt the most insecure about, which I'll talk about in a bit. This one has cooking themes, and it has all the flavored chilies that are basically food and ingredients, but their core mechanics were not really that solid. They were more of like support cards, and when you have a whole set based around support cards and the support abilities don't feel good, something has to be done. Otherwise, no one's gonna want to buy this and add it into their game and play with it. That's where this flavored chilies rework comes in handy here. It matches several of the old design learnings and pitfalls and things like that into consideration when designing these flavored chilies. I've probably reworked this over 10 times at this point, and sometimes you just have to take a shower literally and have like this shower thought moment, or you're laying down in bed and you have this laying down in bed moment. Insert your any other moment into this quote. You could just like scratch everything else and just say, you know what, like how would players intuitively understand what flavored chilies do, or like what a car would do in my game, or a camel would do in my game, and just have to think about the most basic thing and try to design it backwards, right? Flavored chilies are chilies that are food, and food is supposed to be eaten. Okay, cool. I'm supposed to be feeding these chilies to other chilies. How can I do that? Well, let's make sure that they have abilities that trigger when they're eaten. So I have on these abilities, all of them have now tucked on them, right? And before actually had tucked, served, and trashed on them, because their abilities, I don't know, did we give these abilities kind of like a name before, where you have, you know how when some of the cards in DE have like, when this is discarded, something happens, right? So they're like, discard targets, I guess that's what we used to call it. So if a card just is a target and they exist in your game, oftentimes when you don't find the activator to that target, it feels really bad, it feels really clunky, right? So what I did was then add a secondary activator into the ability itself, build it in there so that in case you can't find the activator for the target, it could just activate itself. So that's why it has a double type going on over here with the secondary like grilling and the dining in here. Since grilling and dining are two core mechanics that already comes in the base set, a lot of players when they see grilling and dining, they're gonna know what it does. So now it can activate upon grilled or tucked. So for comparison, chili toast right here, the first card, when it's grilled you draw one, and then when it's tucked you will draw one again. So you get to ideally place this onto your grill, draw the card, and then you play a card like Chef Chili or something that lets you tuck this flavored chili under another chili, and you get to combo that and draw another card. And you get more value, you get more heat than a pot of peppers would, which is just draw two and you only get 2 heat. So that's sort of the idea that I've been building upon, and with this dual type synergy going on here, it's a little bit more complex, but I think it's okay for these more complex mechanics to appear in your expansions for the games that you create. Yeah, if you go down here, we have these set icons. This is probably what I probably should have started this talk with here. The first one you see is this blue building. This is for set 1. Then this like dragon looking one, the purple one, is set 2. So set 1 and set 2 are actually included in the base game together as 2 sets in one game. The first one is like the basic city chilies. Any chilies that basically have a job, like in firefighter or chili engineer, they belong in set 1, and all their abilities are very, very easy to understand. And obviously they all have grilling or dining abilities. And then set 2 is a chili. This icon is actually of a dragon, It's supposed to represent like the mythical, like fantasy, like medieval style. So any chili that has like magic, or like Chili Knight, where it's a very medieval card, or like Chili Slime, it's like a fantasy card. They are all included in set 2, and they're also very easy to understand, though they're slightly more complex than set 1 chilies. So for new time players, if they just want to learn the game, they can only play with set 1 and they will be able to understand how to play. And then when they add in the set 2 into the mix and shuffle those 60 cards together, now they can have a lot of fun. And then when they get bored of set 1 and set 2, they can start looking into the other expansions, which brings in a whole new mechanics and stuff. So that's the idea. And then last real quick last thing that I'm gonna talk about is just some minor adjustments that I'm doing to each of the cards to make them both easier to read and and faster to like learn on the first time. So I'm adding these first of all, let's start with this first person ability text. I think your cards can have third person or first person ability text, and it just made more sense for Chilijack to have first person rather than third. So 8-bit chili now says grilled, swap me with the hottest grilling chili. Before it used to say swap this. And even the version before this actually used to say swap this chili with the hottest. Getting to cut away those unnecessary like words from your ability text, it just makes reading it so much like easier and better. Plus, the benefit of using first person for your game, especially when they use characters that look very friendly or you want the characters to feel personable, it actually like helps a lot to use those like me or I. And some people might find it weird that like your cards are talking to you, but that could be something that they get adjusted to once you actually start playing with the game, and you might not find it very weird after a couple of times of playing. And another thing I did is adding in the ability types back into the text. So this, for example, a chili says dining. If you have a chili with 2 or less heat on your plate, trash me. This is purely to help new players when they play for the first time. You don't just put the chilies on your grill and then immediately trash them because you think that the ability would activate during the grilling of the chilies. It's supposed to only activate during dining. And someone could argue like, hey, this is taking up whole like slot in the top. It's already said on the bottom left, maybe you shouldn't be adding these in. But I also kind of need to do that because of the flavored chilies abilities. Grilled or tucked, draw 1. If I didn't have grilled or tucked, I think it would have been very confusing, even for veteran players, that they would have to remember that the toast activates this ability when it's grilled and when it's tucked. So I think it's gonna just be helpful for everybody, even though it's only just like one word. I might have to position it a little bit higher so that it's not taking up so much card like real estate. I'll continue to like play around with the UI and stuff, but overall I'm really happy with how it's looking so far. But yeah, that's sort of my end of the updates. Sorry, that was like a very long spiel there, but I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see more expansion arts come together, and I hope Zilurus is watching this and he's already probably cooking. He's probably done with these by now by the time this video goes out. So yeah, I can't wait to see them.
Yo,
Yeah.
That's hype. No, that's awesome. There's so much good updates with that. I really like what you did with the set icons and sort of matching in, like, okay, cool, you've got these types of chilies, these chilies, and how the sets expand into each other. Yeah, I do think it's kind of interesting with that text, right, of having the dining and the grilling or grilled sort of up the top. Versus like not having it on there, but I do agree that if you've kind of got that consistency, it will just kind of help like people when they read it a bit better. They're like, okay, dining, that's cool. Yeah, I like what you've done with the spacing in the UI. Like I feel like you're utilizing as much of it as you can, which is really nice. So yeah, all of these updates are feeling really good. I am excited to see more testing, like how people feel about the UI. Yeah, if people want to come in and test some of these games, come check out the Discords in the description below, and come join in on the fun. It's always good. But I'm really interested, especially Dan, talking today about playtesting the game and checking it out, about how these design decisions and the designs of the game impact the game's rules, how it plays, these game phases. You talk about grilling and dining, and I know that Chilijack has had quite the journey of these different game phases. I've played through different iterations, and so there's been quite, and same with DE, I think you've probably seen a very large amount of change. And so I'm super curious to dive in to the kind of how you navigated these changes amongst your like game rules and things like this.
Yeah, I mean I think that's like a super it's when you're designing a game for the very first time, you're oftentimes going off of other established game rules. Like I first started creating deck building games when I first started making games because I had a lot of fun playing them, and most of the time I would just copy the game phases in deck building games. Like, oh yeah, each player can kind of take their turns, buy cards, add it into the deck, play their cards whatsoever. But as I started developing Chilijack, and I soon realized that you need a really clear phase and game rules to allow players to like do what they can do. That's when like, I don't know if I can say this, but shit hit the fan. It was, everything was just going crazy. When I don't specify a lot of things, players will assume that they could just do things and even like out of their own turns. So yeah, I think having a very clear rule book is like a good start. Just letting your players understand like how your game plays out, but also your game has to be designed in a way where it's like very intuitive and clear from the get-go, like when they can do stuff or what they're allowed to do, or if it's like a simultaneous turn, or whether maybe players can take their turns and then the other player can take their turn afterwards. It has to be very clear. I think DE does a really good job of that. I think I know we have like the simultaneous turn where you get to play something together and you reveal it, and then players kind of take turns afterwards, right? But there's more nuances to that, like when do you gain a rune, or when do you deal damage, when can you activate your abilities, of your divine abilities or your card's abilities, which one goes first, when do you draw. All these things kind of like stack up and become like a big knowledge hurdle that players have to kind of get over the first time they learn the game. So anything that we could do as designers, if that can like help them have to remember one thing less, I think that's always like a big win. I don't know, do you have some of these like elements from DE that you can like think about that you had trouble with coming up with game rules for, or game phases for, or still like are trying to figure out right now?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. There is two really interesting areas. One of them is the newer one with Lurk. There was definitely, because we sort of added it in a little like later or quicker, some of the cards, the writing or wording gave a little bit of confusion about when Lurk triggers. And so this is quite an interesting challenge, and it really dictates like adding this phase and rule into the game actually dictates how I write the cards and design the cards. And so a really interesting idea. So Lurk happens, this Lurk keyword you see on Wizcrow. So the top ability says gain 1 wild rune, gain 1 rune of any type, and then Lurk. When you're lurking, when you discard, heal 2. So what this is saying is once Wizcrow is the top card of the discard pile, Lurk is active. So it's kind of like an on-off switch. So if I kind of make like a little visual demonstration here very quickly. So we've kind of got like the switch, and it's kind of going from like on to off.
Oh, I like how quickly you were able to just
Yeah.
Figma, everybody.
Yeah. The power of Figma. If you've not heard our episode about how we make cards, then go check that out. Yeah, 100%.
Yes, shout out.
So how Lurk kind of works is you have this card in your hand or on the field or something like this, but as soon as it hits the top of the discard pile and it is the top card, then Lurk is on. As soon as it's covered by another card, the Lurk is off. Now, the one complication with this is if you have abilities that are ongoing effects, like Wizcrow, he's saying when you discard, heal 2. Oh, this is simple enough. If this is on top of your discard, the next time you discard, you get to heal. That's great. The problem is when you run into Lurk abilities that look like this. Lurk, heal 2. Well, what does this mean? Is this like a video game where we're healing every tick? And someone did this to me yesterday during the playtest because there is a badly worded card because I need to patch it. And my sort of brain went into answering it with common sense. And if you're designing card games or any kind of games really, you should never design with common sense because
that's a good advice.
Because common sense is not common. It's not as common as you might think. And your version of common sense may be very different to someone else's. And so what I expected was a very different reality. And so when I put Lurk heal 2, my assumption was it's kind of common you'd say, oh, well, this only triggers one time, right? Players were not keen on that idea. They were like, wait, so do I heal like 2 times in a turn? And it led to these conversations. And I was like, wow, okay. So it's really fascinating how a sort of phase or game rule of how this works really impacts even down to the card's design. And so at the moment, I'm looking at solving this by basically either deciding to move this heal 2 to something else, or just keep it to be some kind of passive trigger. So it might be saying Lurk, and it could even say heal 2, use this once, or something like this. But my instincts are saying maybe just move this to a different card ability, maybe just get rid of the Lurk entirely and just say, hey, let me heal 2. And so it's quite interesting. So that's like one of the definite issues that I had with these game rules is we sort of had a version just before this current version where the Lurk was sort of, players came into it and they said, oh, well, what if this was a triggerable phase that happened when you reveal the card? And so you would reveal the card and then you would check for the Lurk and you would trigger Lurks and then you would go on and stuff. And this sort of answered that question of the triggers, but it made it really complex. And this is where I think as designers, a lot of people go, I don't want to say wrong, but they definitely underestimate the depth you need to go in to solving these rules. And I think when you are bringing a game to a playtest, it's really important that these timings that players go to are really firm. And you try your best to design it to be straightforward. And so, because players will always invent definitions, I'm realizing by playtesting with people. Even if you do design something in one way, they're going to invent a definition that is totally different. And they're like, oh yeah, you gain a rune at the start of the turn, right? And I'm like, what? How does that? We never said that. But players will just do this. And so what you need to be as a game designer is really strict. No, you don't gain runes at the start. You gain runes at the end. Oh, okay. All right, and back to fun. Yay. Because that's what I've found really shocking. This was my experience was, oh, wow, players are like, even though they know the rules, they're coming back to the game after a week or something, and they're trying to interpret, remember, invent, and I'm like, this is fascinating. And so it's really good to have a strong resource, and I think this is why a lot of people say, hey, have a rule book, have this thing, because when you go and give this game to somebody, those things you've invented need to be convinced. I think it's really easy for us to act as these big gods making this entire game and we invent the rules, but you actually have to convince players that your rules make sense and they are the rules. Because if players come into the game and they don't subscribe to that idea, then you start to get down to this idea where, well, now there's confusion. And I think the only time that's positive is when people are inventing new formats, like Commander and Magic the Gathering. Well, that's cool. That's cool that they said, hey, we're going to unsubscribe from the rules. But that was more intentional than it was confusion based. So yeah, I think the other like big thing with DE outside of Lurk, and this is a lot more bigger and it does actually go into the timings and rules, is tiebreakers. And this is a big struggle for me right now. It's kind of like, well, it doesn't happen often, but you really need to account for all these little things. And so if I give you the example of, let's say, we both played Lug. Immediately, I have a definition here. When two players play the same element, you check the power in the top left. So we'd say, oh, well, we both have 0. Well, now what happens? So you would check for any runes down below, and let's say that this player has 3 fire runes. Well, now they have 3 power. It adds to their runes, adds to their power, the runes, and so now this player wins. But if this player also has 3, well, now you're in that tie position again. So what I do I call this a true tie. This is truly a tie. You can't figure out a way to get around it. We're going to skip the damage and we're going to move on. But there's still these lingering problems. This doesn't resolve who goes first, the turn order, how you now cascade into the normal play. Because now you go to abilities and you say, well, who goes first? Now what I know for DE is win more is bad. And it doesn't feel like there's enough room for the other player to play into that. And so I tried to say who goes first is based on the player that's the most behind. And what we've currently gone with is you check the health. So if this player has 12 health and this player has 11 health, then the 11 health player, they will go first with their ability. Cool. Great. Problem solved. Well, what if they have the same health? And they have the same rune number? So now my answer to this is you check who lost the last round. And you say, okay, that's cool. Who lost? But now we're starting to get into really clunky territory. And there's so many different steps. And it's like, how do I package this into a rule book? How do I put this into a how to play video? Every conditional tiebreaker step. It just feels messy. So right now, this is my dilemma. Is what is going to be my packageable answer to tiebreakers?
Yeah. I mean, when I played DE and I ran into this maybe 2 times out of all the different turns that I've taken. But it's those 2 times that I also remember thinking, man, this doesn't feel quite natural to me. And some of my, like the reasonings or something like that, like when we tied and we have the same amount of runes, when it defaulted to the player with the lower health going first, as a player who was winning, that felt bad to me because I was just doing well. I was like trying to win the game. And sometimes the winning player not necessarily has control over their starting health because their divines even have different starting healths. And maybe I only did like 1 damage to the opponent and the opponent did 6 damage to me, but I'm still ahead technically because I have more health. So that feels already like that's like something doesn't feel quite right there. But I also know that you have to figure out priority somehow.
Also, trying to track who won the previous round or like who lost in the previous round is so difficult to do. I mean, not too difficult to do, but it's, it just feels clunky. So, yeah, I feel you on that. It sounds like a very interesting challenge to kind of try to figure out. Um, I usually just feel like I gravitate towards what would players naturally want to do in this situation. Like, would they want to just skip entirely and like not even look at abilities, just go next? Or how would they determine who goes first? And trying to like lean into what they say. But do you have any ideas of like what you might want to try?
I mean, one player pitched an interesting idea, which was paying for priority. So if you're stuck in the spot, maybe you can say, well, I want to go first, so I'm going to pay 2 runes here to go first. And this might introduce a lot of complexity and stall out as well, where players are like, well, I'm also going to play 2 and I want to go first. Oh, well, I'll pay 3. Well, I'll pay 3. Oh, well, now we're in the same spot. Yeah, now what?
Yeah.
And so not too sure on that one. There is the idea of the coin has been tossed around a little bit, which is basically you give it to one player at the start and they hold this magical priority. So if you ever run into any problems, they get the cake. And then each game you just swap the coin to the other player. This is okay, but it's quite easy to forget and not look at. So this might be a good way of doing it, where you say, okay, in the events of this, check who has the coin, and then they get to go first. This is kind of rough, because it can be kind of random almost. It's like, oh, you just win because you have the coin. And so yeah, there's a few ideas, but at the moment none of them are really gelling as like strong contenders.
Could I make a suggestion? Sort of playing into the strength of your game as the Rock Paper TCG. What if they... Oh, I feel like this actually has been something that was done before. You play a mini game of another DE instead of a DE, where you reveal other cards from your hands to try to see who gets the priority. Or what if players just flip over the top card of the deck to see who gets to go? Like something like that, where maybe players use external resources outside of this engage to determine who gets to go first, like revealing a random card from your hands or revealing a card from their deck in some way.
It could be kind of interesting. I mean, it goes into like, you get reveal information, I suppose, which is kind of interesting.
Though I think it becomes like knowledge overload to some degree if you are meant to track that. So that's why I'm kind of more leading into like reveal from the deck. But even then, that's kind of like also a reveal too. I'm not sure. You might be able to reveal cards from your discard pile. Like you choose one at random. Well, not random, but you choose one and you do a little rock, paper, scissors there. But that also doesn't feel good. Yeah, I don't know. It's that's definitely an interesting challenge. Then I'm sure you will be able to figure it out.
I mean, there's the classic option of play an actual game of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm hoping that your players will actually know the rules to the original rock, paper, scissors, so they could just do that there on the spot and see who goes first. That's pretty simple.
Yeah, it is a little bit trickier because it sort of starts there. Most of the time these things resolve themselves because someone had a haste ability, so they've already used theirs. Right. So it's like, okay, I'm just gonna go first. And so yeah, it's like most of the time I don't really run into these issues, but like you said, right, it's those 2 times and they're really specific and it feels clunky. So yeah, it's definitely a bit of a solve. There's sort of like some options, but yeah, I'm not too sure what's the strongest. It would be great. I feel like it would be great if it could bake into the game as a core and it just all like fit in. I think that's the best potential, but it's quite tricky with not too many like number trackings or things going on.
Yeah. I feel like this issue in Chilijack was actually not necessarily solved, but it just comes down to such like astronomical chance that you might keep tying over and over again, because in Chilijack you also reveal cards to see who goes first, but also the outcome based on who goes first isn't as detrimental to like who wins or who loses as much of the time. It's more of just like my ability will go first and then yours goes second, and then you don't take damage from like these abilities, so it doesn't feel that bad if you go second, and even though something terrible could happen to you technically. But then yeah, we always like reveal a card from our hand when things go bad. Like you would first reveal these two and compare their heats together, and then you have your plate to fall back to, and then you fall back to your next hottest on your plate, and then your next hottest on the plate, and if all else fails, then you
Yo.
I think our call got disconnected there.
Oh, it did. Yeah. I like my Discord like fully froze out.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, we'll just resume. But yeah, I don't know. That sounds like a very interesting challenge of like trying to fix the ties. You could try to just have them play rock paper scissors in the most basic way possible. I think that might help them get less distracted from what's actually like not important into just going back into the flow of playing the game right away.
That's kind of true. Like I wonder if I just lean into it's more like a gimmick or fun. It's like, oh, we're playing rock paper scissors. That's fun.
And if you're trying to do this digitally, then maybe you need another way to.
I guess digitally you could just do rock paper scissors digitally. I feel like it's really easy, right? You just pop up with the.
Is that possible?
Yeah, like it would basically go into the game would understand you're in this state, and then it would say rock paper scissors time, and then you have to pick your like which option, and then it uses like emotes or something.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I could see that. That's actually pretty neat.
Yeah. Okay. Rock paper scissors solves everything, people. that's. I mean, this is how I started DE, so.
Right.
I mean, I'll be doing some testing, but that is maybe a fallback. I'm super curious, Dan, around Chilijack, like in the same vein of like the game phases, game rules, and sort of what's your view with Chilijack? What's been some like troublesome things, maybe some great things? Any insights you've had designing Chilijack?
So one of the core rules of Chilijack is if you look at 8-bit Chili and Achilles here, we have these two abilities, grilling abilities and dining abilities. And grilling abilities can be very disruptive. They can affect opponents' chilies on their plate. So for example, if they have like this chili toast, or let me copy over this chili toast here, and they have this on their plate, they have the option to through like either swapping or something where they can swap the cards like this, right? It's very disruptive and it affects your total heat at the end of the turn. So I put those kinds of disruptive abilities on grilling abilities because they are fair in some sense, because the game is not over at that point. You could always play another card afterwards, and if players are aware that those things can happen, then it's fine, and it's fine for those abilities to happen during that phase. But I actually separated dining abilities to happen on your own plate only. They are very non-interactive, and they are meant to be like your end game win condition cards or cards that allow you to stay flexible. But long ago in Chilijack's conception, I had abilities in dining phase that would basically like disrupt your opponents back then too. And soon found out that it was much more fun if players were allowed to have this like at the end of the game, just something to do on your own, so you can try to fix up your plate and stuff. So I took that away. So most dining abilities are all happening by yourself, and you're just kind of resolving them on your own at your own pace. Your opponents are doing the same, and you add up the number and see who wins. In comes the problem. Here is where when you set a game of like rule like this, and you create certain abilities that just break that rule, and you have to kind of spot those things on the horizon and catch them. So here are two chilies, for example, chili and pea. Trash all other dining chilies on your plate, right? This is actually the updated version of this, where another card can have, trash the mildest chili on your plate or something like that. And there's a lot of abilities that do that, like trash your mildest chili or return your mildest chili or something like that. Then I have this like old version of chili cone where it says, when served or trashed, you may tuck this under another player's hottest chili. Well, what's the problem with this? During grilling phase, if you were able to use chilies like Cayenne Cultist or any card that lets you trash the chili cone and you get to like tuck this under an opponent's hottest chili, you feel smart. You're like disrupting them, giving them this big -4. It's a good value. But because it says that when this activates when it's trashed, all of a sudden any dining chilies that trash things can no longer work with chili cone. Otherwise, you'd be directly disrupting your opponent during dining phase. And what happens when you disrupt them during dining phase, the reason why I decided not to do that is because another player could have a chili and pea or something like that on their plate, and their ability says trash your mildest. So depending on who goes first, this matters a lot, and priority suddenly becomes something that I have to allow players to like keep track of, and it just becomes like a huge hassle. So overall, I decided to cut off that connection. There's a big wall, and players cannot, no matter what, you cannot interact with your opponents during your dining phase. And only way to support that rule is by reworking abilities like this into abilities like this, where now that says dining or tucked, you may trash the mildest chili on your plate. So it never goes onto your opponent's plate. It doesn't say anything about your opponent's stuff. It just interacts with your stuff. And you're focused on your abilities. This does limit the design space, right? Because as much as I really like abilities that like when this is trash, you get to mess with your opponent, I can't have that if there are a single trashing card in the dining phase. And there's way too many of those. So this is just one of those things that you just have to kind of look out for and understand how your game phases and the rules are set up. And if you want to stay true to it, you cannot design certain abilities that like break that rule in the convention. Otherwise, it will disrupt everybody and everyone's gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, that's really interesting how that interaction works. Do you think that like this is all really driven around priority, like especially in card games, like priority is a big driver of these game rules?
Yeah, I think so. Once you are able to figure out how priority in your game works, and like it's really clear to the players that I get to do this and then my opponent gets to do that, it's very intuitive. But until then, like you really have to like shape these rules into spaces that feel right. Like I don't really quite understand how I got to this point, or what was like the magic formula that I used. I think just a lot of playtesting the game to see what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and yeah, trying until it works. I think that's like my kind of advice on setting up your game rules, like how phases work in your game, just try to have like a really quick prototype of your cards interacting with each other and your opponents, or like sometimes when you have simultaneous turns, how does that feel? How does it feel to have turn-based card games, or how does it feel to have two of them like mixed at the same time? Because I think DE and Chilijack are both like that. We have a simultaneous turn where we both pick one thing to play, and then we reveal them, and then we get to decide who goes first. So, and if you can condense all that down into like a very simple, nicely packaged game, yeah, that's the dream, right? But yeah, for DE, would you say that you are completely like done with your game rules and card game phases? Like you wouldn't make any more changes beyond this, like what we talked about today?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty set in terms of the game rules itself. And I guess like it's an interesting space to be in, because it's sort of like, what does that mean? Because it's like I have this tiebreaker thing here, right? But I feel like with how the game is, the solve on that tiebreaker doesn't feel like I'm fundamentally going to change the rules of the game, or the base work of how the core kind of system operates. Because I think that the one thing that does work in tiebreakers is the true damage. If it's a true tie, skip damage. This works great. So I have kind of like one half of it solved, where if it's a true tie, then you just kind of skip damage. It's just solving that last little bit around the abilities. But what has felt super good and I'm confident on is just skipping damage. That feels good to both players. It's kind of this mutual agreement. No one's really like, oh man. So that's always quite good. But I think otherwise, like I'm pretty happy with how it all works. And I think the recent playtest really did shine a light on the lurk keyword, which was really good. And what I arrived on there is simplicity is really, really good. And once players get used to it and sort of have that agreeability, and there's a handshake on the rules and it's firm, then I think players can confidently stand on it. And how lurk works, just as soon as it hits the discard pile, that toggle switches on. That feels good because it's always going to be on top, and you can track that and work to it, and it feels natural, and it feels better in this ongoing passive territory. Too many lurk triggers, I think, starts to cause confusion, disruption, and so I like where I'm sort of at with it. And a lot of the cards at the moment are kind of ongoing lurk abilities anyways, so it's all feeling really good.
Nice.
So yeah, I think I'm at a pretty confident state, but there are always those little things, and I do like what you said about playtesting and just trying until it works, because I do think it really comes out from just testing the game, and you can't really sit behind a screen designing to fix these things. I feel like you can't solve it until you playtest it. I feel like only your playtesters will shine the lights on these like specific patches. It's like invisible ink, and they've got the specific torch. So yeah, I definitely think playtesting has been fantastic. And yeah, I'm very excited to test some more. And in the coming weeks, we'll have the games tournament. It's going to be so much fun. So can't wait to tell everyone more about that as we roll on through. But I do think this has been really insightful, just talking through the process of what it's like adding in game rules, sort of how have we impacted our design choices based on that. It's really interesting, like how we do the climb. So we're climbing up and designing these games. It's like all these facets that interact with our choices we make. It's really cool. It's great to see onto Chilijack, like you're going through the motions of these choices. I think it's been really awesome. So
yeah, it has been. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a lot of work done on both ends here, and we're getting closer and closer. I could actually see the pinnacle here. Like you have the tournament coming up, and even talking about crowdfunding. Wow. perhaps like next episode is even talking about more of like the business side of things or marketing and as well as like the game updates and stuff. But I'm sure a lot of people who are listening in right now also are thinking about like selling their games at some point. And yeah, I wish that I knew more about this kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe we'll kind of touch upon those topics next time, but we'll see. Yeah, it all depends on like the climate of what we're working on, and like if some people want to hear certain topics, please leave it down below in the comments. We're always listening and looking for more feedback.
100%. Yeah, leave us some comments below, and even your own journeys into game rules and game phases. Do you have a story of if something went terribly wrong, or if you had this perfect solution? Come tell us about it in the comments. But Dan, it's been great. Another week, another climb. We're sort of going through. Yeah, I think next week it could be really fun to touch on some of those topics, and what are our choices, how do we make them, giving some insights into our journey, and then as we're finding stuff and solving. But yeah, we will be back next week with some more updates. So until then, catch you guys on the climb next time.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah.
Catch us on the climb next time. Thank you everybody for listening. I'll talk to you tomorrow, or like not tomorrow, but the next time.
Yeah, it'll come by so fast. It'll feel like tomorrow.
Yes.
We'll be there already. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Bye guys.
Bye.